We left off talking about this line, return view. Now, if we don't pass anything in these parentheses, then it just will default to using the name of this view. Now, if I had a second view in here, so let's create one because we're going to do it anyway. I'll create inside that views home folder, right click, say add a new item, and I want to create a second view, which I was planning to do, like I said anyway. We'll create a second Razor view. Remember, Razor view rather than Razor page, and I'm going to call this one fan mail. So we're going to strip out that little fan mail form and put it into a second view for the purposes of this video. And so now I've got this fan mail.cshtml, and I can say when in my controller, when someone calls index, pass them instead to fan mail. And so I have that ability to call another view where I can send them to a different page if I want to, depending on what's happening. So I can say return the view fan mail, and it will send me. And notice I didn't put the CSHTML extension on there. Again, this is all coding by convention in .NET. It's trying to save me trouble. Why do I have to type on CSHTML every time? It knows it's going to be a CSHTML file. So .NET says, don't worry about that. Just type in fan mail, and I know what you're talking about. It's in the home controller. The home controller's matched up with the home folder. I can see that there's a view named fan mail in there, and so I'll make that connection automatically. So I can type in fan mail, or I could say send instead to the index view. And that would be fine too. We can send them wherever we want to. We can send them to whatever page we want to based on the action, which is, this is actually the action that we're executing. And we'll see that in just a second. So hang with me. It'll all make sense. But if I don't put anything, then it's going to go try in the home folder to find a view with the same name as the action, and it will just automatically call that view. Now, we'll notice if I run this, it's still not going to work because we're not using routing yet. It can't be found. And so it's not working right. And so this is where we need to come back to our program CS file, which, if you, as you'll recall, is our setup file. It's the information where we put there where we said use default files, use static files, and I believe at the end of the last video, I don't know why that's not in here anymore, we added in one that says app use HTTPS redirection, so that if they go to the HTTP site, it will automatically take them to the HTTPS site. And so those were the things that I believe we added in. If I didn't add that in, let's add it in now, where we're putting in this use HTTPS redirection again, so that when they, at the browser, as this is running, and they're, it's coming up with the secure site, HTTPS, if somebody came instead and typed HTTP without the S, if we didn't have this use HTTPS redirection, it would show them this message, can't be found. But this command says, take them, if they type in HTTP, to HTTPS, if that's what our site's using. All right, so then how do we make these pages show up then? And so there's these three commands we need to add in, and they come before this app run. App run will be the last thing we do. But so we did this HTTPS redirection. We used the static files. If we're doing MVC, we don't actually need this line that is using default files because we don't need it to default to index CSHTML or HTML, sorry. And so we could actually get rid of that line and that program will still work fine. But if you wanted to be able to access those files directly, index HTML or anything like that, you could use the default files. I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so then some other things we need then is to say app.use something called routing. And so in the old days, when we were building websites, you had to line up the content in the folders to what the user you wanted to type. And so if I had in my file structure let's say remember that? That was fun. Memories, all alone in the moonlight. Okay, forget I did that. I got to remind myself to edit that out. Anyway, if I had a path that I wanted the users of the website to go, let's say, I don't know what. So my website is Amazon.com, and I want to go to tools / hammers / and then there's a page about hammers, hammers.html. This is the way we used to do it. Then you actually had to set up that directory on the website. So on the server, you had to have a folder called tools, and within that you had to have a folder called hammers, and then within that you had to have a file named hammers.html. The way it works now is it doesn't matter what the user, where the files are located on your system. You can go in and say, look, if I get somebody that says amazon.com/tools, take them to the file that's actually in the amazon.com/views/ products, and take them to the tools.cshtml view. And so we can determine if they've gone in and typed in an address. We can look at the address and say, let's go to this page that has nothing to do with the actual file structure like we used to have to do. Let's take them to this page and show them that view. And so we use this new thing called routing, which we say use routing, and we're going to go in and, not design patterns, I'll think of it in a second. Regular expressions. We're going to basically set up a thing that says look for an address in this form and then follow that format. And so one of the things that we'll need to use is something, it's doing it here automatically for us as we set up our new, what we call endpoint, and we'll talk more about these, we'll work with these. I'm just trying to get it set up. Then we're going to need to use authorization. So it knows that, it's trying to plug in the code for us. We can say thank you .NET for doing that. And then it's telling us the next thing is to use endpoints, which we will use later on, but I'm just for now going to use a command called map a controller route. So we're using routing. So map a controller route, and I'm going to say for this route, and it's yelling at me because there's nothing in there yet. I'm going to say the name of this route is default. And the pattern that I'm looking for is, and this is where the regular expression thing comes in. What I'm looking for is the user to first type in the name of the controller. And so if they don't type anything, then I'm going to default the controller to the home controller. And then so then that's going to get them to the home controller, but then I need to know which action. Now again, this is an action. Which action are we looking at? And so back to our program CS file, I'm going to say the next thing we're going to be looking for is which action we want to pursue in that controller. And then I'm just going to add this in. You can also have them pass information in with that, with the equal sign. You may have seen it before, that adds onto the URL to pass in parameters. And so this is a typical default pattern that says, look, if they don't type anything, let's default to the home controller and the index action. And when I've got that done, so I'll put that up here on this line. Excuse me. When I get that done, now when I run this, we should see a website. Unless we get an error, which we did. And so looking at the time, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. We're going to figure out what's going on here in the next video. Spencer out.